Please enjoy this message from David Arquette sent in by the fabulous Carrie Tenney.
Hey Ryan, how are you? Thanks for doing the Scream podcast.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan Showers. I'm your host, Ryan Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. In the lead up to Scream 7, I couldn't be more grateful for everybody out there who listens to the show, who supports my podcast here, listening every episode, or on social media on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. If you would like to become a member of the podcast, come to the group Zooms, be on the show on a one-on-one or small group setting, consider joining the Patreon with Scream with Ryan Showers. In addition to the benefits of coming on the podcast, you can also join our social media groups, in particular on Instagram. That's the main hub of the podcast. I also do a monthly audio commentary of a Scream movie or a Scream-related film. From now through April, we are going to be having a new Scream movie audio commentary. So if you would like to hear my thoughts in an audio commentary form in the style of Wes Craven, Marion Madalena, et al. Of the original trilogy, please consider subscribing and supporting the show. Thank you to every single person out there who subscribes on Patreon. Specifically, I need to thank my Daddy Ghost Faces and Stab investors over at Patreon. Starting out strong, we have Carrie Tenney, our Mama Ghostface, Corey Wilson, and Brett Janovich. And then we have Kevin Abner, Ali, Roy Garza, Josh Carr, Mark Rim, PWO5, Gustavo Mora, Mark Vieira, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Christian Ranke, Stevie Shears, The Horror Project podcast, David D., Jess Mariano, Sam Levy, Tamika Jones, Josh Calamari, and Andrew Dominguez. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan Showers. I'm your host, Ryan Showers. Thank you for joining me for this Ryan² episode. I am joined by a legacy person of the podcast. If you've been a long-time listener, so you've actually just heard Cassie on Monday's episode. So now here we are, and I'm with somebody else who was super important to the podcast at one point, and they're still important, and I still enjoy having them on. And it's just so nice to reunite. So everyone, please welcome my friend Ryan Young. Ryan Not Dying. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's been a while, so I'm excited to be here with you today.
Do you know that people know you not by your name, not by Ryan Young? They know you by Ryan Not Dying. Like, so people will just say, "Hey, have you heard from Ryan Not Dying?"
That's awesome. It was such a random Twitter handle. It's funny, I don't even have the Twitter handle anymore. But no, that's exciting. We had some really fun conversations back in the day. So I'm excited it resonated with people.
Yeah, no. And, I want to start out one of your claims to fame on the podcast. I mean, there were many. So, because we're both named Ryan, we have this segment called Ryan². When I think of Ryan Young, that's what I think of. I think of the fact that we both bonded over our shared love for Sarah Michelle Gellar. I know that there are hundreds of people out there who love Buffy as much as I do, who are in some way involved with the podcast. But like, you love Sarah Michelle Gellar and understand her whole career, not just the Scooby-Doos, not just the slashers, but like her whole career in a way that I do. And I think of that when I think of our friendship. But in terms of the podcast, I think your most famous thing back in the day, and I'm so glad that you were part of that era, was that you kind of stood up and said, guys, Melissa Barrera's acting is dog shit. Sam is not a good character. What are we doing? And back then I was a little more forgiving of her, and I definitely probably defended her more than I didn't, which is just ironic given the events that have unfolded. So I need to apologize for not joining you in the moment, because I've recently rewatched Scream 5, doing some episodes for the anniversary this past week. And man, I watched it on January 2nd, the day after New Year's. I woke up just not feeling like my normal, perky self. And I turned on Scream 5. And it was such a sobering thing to watch Scream 5 in a state where I wasn't trying to make excuses for it, because I saw in the first two-thirds of that movie, she is as bad as everyone says. She is terrible. She struggles with every single line delivery. It is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you remember this. I'll never forget the day. Like, I remember I think it was a group of individuals. I don't know. We were talking about the movie, and I was like, "Oh my god, I feel like the only asshole in the room right now because I'm what I'm about to say." But it was just it didn't resonate for me. It felt like Melissa Barrera. I just didn't feel like she nailed it in Scream. So she was never my favorite, unfortunately. I mean, you know.
In retrospect, I'm so grateful for you back then. I mean, there were other people who were critical of her acting, like my friend Joey Valisi on the very first episode after Scream 5. He basically said, "Yeah, she is not that great." But Joey wasn't. He was a bit more subtle about the criticism of the acting, whereas you were like, "Guys, what are we doing here?" And I'm just really glad that back then, because like I did like Sam in the moment. And like again, hindsight is 2020, but like you were there in the moment saying, this is not it, guys.
Yeah, it was her. It was the whole requel of it all, right? I think we had many conversations where it was like, this can't last forever by any means. This isn't like a 3 arc story, right? I'm excited for where we are today, though, which
Yeah.
makes me really excited as like a legacy fan, and so I'm looking forward to where it's going.
Well, so let's just kind of transition here. This is like the perfect transition. Like, I have a question for Ryan Not Dying, and we never talked about this. I mean, we've talked, and we've kept touch, and I think I feel like you were on recently, but the last time I remember it was The Grudge, which we did in the fall of 24. So I mean, that's still a long time. I feel like you've been on since
Oh
then.
wow. Hmm.
But and like we chat here and there, regardless, like we've never actually sat down and talked about this, but like here we are in Scream 7. Kevin Williamson's directing. Nev Campbell is back as the main character, Sidney Prescott, and Gail Weathers is kind of being restored to a place of prominence. And the story is about Sydney and her family, specifically Sydney and her daughter. And I just kind of want to know, a lot of people have kind of suggested like, hey, this is kind of like if we got to redo Scream 5, this is what it would have looked like. In retrospect, do we think that this should have been Scream 5? Do you think that it would have been better for Scream 5 to have just gone right back to Sydney and her family? Or do you think introducing this other side plot storyline with the Carpenters and Billy Loomis was necessary to get to this point? What are your thoughts on all this?
So, it's a really valid question. I know there's a lot of fans of 5 and 6. I mean, I think for me personally, I felt like when 5 and 6 came out, the franchise sort of forgot its own thesis, right? Which I mean, for us and being Sydney centric, like survival is the story, right? So for me, as somebody who's been a fan since the late 90s, saw it in movie theaters, the original, like Scream was never just like a who done it, right? It was really about like what it costs to survive violence repeatedly. I think Sydney Prescott's character, as a character herself, she wasn't compelling because like she was chased. She's compelling because she kept choosing to live in a world that tried to narrate her trauma, right? So when 5 and 6 came out and you sort of sidelined Sydney, I mean, I felt like the franchise sort of stripped out its emotional spine, right? The film became more about events again, not necessarily aftermath, if that makes sense. So, like, Scream without Sydney stopped being about survival. It just really became about new content, which, I mean, I guess in a world that we live in, like, some of a younger generation, everything is about new content, like what new content can you get on the internet. But I felt like 5 and 6, they just sort of took these legacy characters and they repositioned them as props, right? Not necessarily people. You had Gail, who's like such a strong figure in the franchise. She sort of became her own recurring brand joke. It was like she wrote the book again, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you had that come up. Sydney was sort of written out for safety reasons. Like I know we talk about the financials of it all, but at the end of the day, I think they were full and ready to write Sydney out, right?
Can I just interrupt for a second? Like that is such a good point. Is the fact that like yes, there is such an element of Nev not being in Scream 6 as a financial matter, and for her and her story, I think it is a triumph. But let's be real. Let's be absolutely fucking real. I think Radio Silence and the writers and the producers, I think everyone involved was okay with Nev not being in Scream 6. No one was up in arms about it. And the I think it shows in the way that they wrote her and let Sydney be in Scream 5. Like Sydney in Scream 5 is she's so inconsequential in some ways. Like Nev does a nice job, and like it's good to see her and she grounds the movie, but she doesn't do anything of super consequence. Like I think Gail is there in a consequential way. I mean, she loses Dewey, she gets to avenge his death. Like she gets a lot, but with Sydney, she doesn't really get to do so much. I mean, she's there, but she, like you said, she's decoration. She's an object in the background. Where in Scream 6, it does feel like, yeah, no one fought for her. No one actually really wanted her to be in this movie. And so it's just ironic too, the way that like the fate and like the arc of history has rolled out now, where it's kind of come out to be that like Nev is the one with the true power. The decision making and the ways of thinking that got through 5 and 6 led to catastrophe. And who saved it? Nev Campbell and Sidney Prescott. So take that and shove it up your butt. But I think that you have a great point here in the sense that like it's not just a financial matter. I think everyone involved was like, let's just move on. I think that in some ways a lot of them probably felt better that Sydney wasn't in it because they felt like they could chart out their own legacy in the Scream franchise as opposed to recognizing what's made Scream so great in the first place.
I mean, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, feel like having a situation with 5 and 6, and maybe this is the hot take, is like it was almost necessary to get where we are today. Because I'll be honest with you, to envision Scream 7 as another Carpenter sister story, I don't know where that story was going, right? Other than the inevitable, like Sam and fighting off becoming like Ghostface herself. Like, I just don't know where it was actually going. Those two movies were this it is another thing. They were very like risk averse, right? Like
Yeah.
they didn't take a lot of risk, right? So like the new leads, I think that's another thing that frustrates me about like recent commentary is people say, like Sydney always survives. I feel like the classic Scream movies, when you look at like Scream 1 through 4, when it came to relationships and attachments, like that's what was punished, right? Whereas like the new Scream, it was like protecting all of the relationships across the board. I always felt like the new core 4, they had armor thicker than Sydney ever had. Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, it just doesn't work. I feel like the culture of Scream, they just really tried to change it. And so I am grateful that, what's happened has happened. I feel like we're getting that story back with Sydney. I feel like, we're moving into what does it look like for a survivor to outlive their story. And I feel like that's still important commentary. So, yeah.
Well, and not only that, not only is this idea of her outliving her story, but like it's like this is a 2.0 story in my eyes. Like I could see this. Like the theory is that we're going to get a Sydney 2.0 trilogy, or at least a Sydney Tatum, Sydney family X set of films. And like Scream 7 is like the first chapter in this new era of Sydney and this new storyline of Sydney. And it's kind of brilliant if you think about it in terms of like in the original trilogy, it was Sydney as the daughter who had all these issues because of her mother. And now the roles are reversed where Sydney is the mother and she has a daughter whose issues might be affecting her. So it's kind of brilliant in that respect. But one thing you said about like the consequences, I think what you were kind of reaching for is like, in Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of those movies took risks, in some ways. Like Scream 1, obviously killing off Drew Barrymore was a huge shock and set the tone for no one's safe. Scream 2, Randy died, and he was a core fixture of the first movie. In Scream 3, you had Cotton die in the opening scene, in the very first scene, and Sydney almost died herself. And then again, Sydney also almost died too in Scream 4. In Scream 4, they did the shocking thing of killing off all the new people, all the new cast, and left the legacy standing there. So, I mean, all 4 of those movies did something shocking in their own right, whereas Scream 5 and 6 did not. Scream 5 and 6 couldn't have been more milquetoast in how they approached risk.
Yeah, I think the biggest risk they took was obviously killing Dewey. I don't think that was at the benefit of the storyline to move story. I think it was the benefit to just maintain killing somebody within their core group that they had created. It was very convenient to kill off Dewey, right? To bring that back, you had to have a reason to incorporate Sydney and Gail. I just, again, I felt like it was an easy choice. I think every single person in the fandom predicted that Dewey would die as soon as that movie was announced.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is like, I actually think you're on the right track here in terms of like, if we would have gotten a Scream 7 with the core 4 or with Melissa Barrera as Sam, and let's just say Sydney wasn't involved or, and Gail just had a small role again, like she did in Scream 6, even worse, I feel like everyone would be so unhappy with the trajectory after we got that movie. It would be like, what are we doing here? If we make Sam Ghostface and all of the core four magically survive. And let's just say Sam kills 9 people as Ghostface, but then they come in and rehabilitate her and bring the good out in her. Like that would have been terrible. I just think like, with the mindset and the approach that they took in Scream 5 and especially Scream 6, I think by the time we would have gotten to the Scream 7, I think Scream would be so changed, so distorted from what it used to be and what made the franchise so good in the first 4 films. I think it would be unrecognizable to a lot of Scream fans. And I think a lot of that has to do if Sydney wasn't involved, like her not being there it would have allowed the franchise to have been distorted.
And I even feel like, you have those movies, the meta commentary also shifted so drastically, right? You went from culture critique to like fandom management, right? And so like you have all those earlier films, hard tropes, media sensationalism, like audience complicity, but then we moved into the newer films, just discourse, right?
Yeah.
You had this requel logic. You had internet toxicity, which Ryan, you know something about internet toxicity.
Unfortunately. And speaking of Melissa Barrera, right?
Right, you got drugged into that, and
Yeah.
and you got drugged into that pretty hard. It's sad though, right? So, I mean, I feel like 5 and 6 made people like take a step back and say, like, just what is happening? Like, where is the commentary? Where's this going? And so I think a Sydney-centric Scream 7, it's not regression. I'm looking more at like this movie is going to be structural repair, especially bringing Kevin back, right? So like I feel like it's going to be restoring some narrative gravity.
I think it's restoration, not regression. I think if you think it's regression, then it's like you don't really understand this franchise. And that's just like, oh, so you just want jokey, lame, kind of just quote fun roller coaster McDonald's type Scream movies for the rest of your life. That's not what I think most fans want in their future Scream movies. So I have a question for you because it's been a long time
Yeah.
since you've done like the speed round, and I'm going to revamp the speed round after we get the new movie. But I'm just going to preview. You're the first person I'm telling this, and I guess whoever's listening, I think I'm gonna have one question be. So the question right now is like Sam or Tara, and I'm gonna change that to Tatum or Sam. And I just want to see where people fall. Are people really gonna go down with the ship of Sam Carpenter, or are they gonna be like, oh no, Tatum is such the better character? So that's gonna be an interesting test. But what I want to ask you is one of the questions that I'm gonna be kind of modifying a little bit is Sydney or Gail, or do you tie them in terms of your preference? I'm pretty sure you picked Gail in the past, but I'd love to hear your point of view on Sydney and Gail, like which one you prefer and like what you're excited to see about them in Scream 7.
I think what I'm excited most to see, I mean, so in this moment, like where I am today, I would actually pick Sydney. And here's why. And it's probably because Gail was done so dirty in 6, right? I feel like I didn't get the growth that I wanted from Gail as a character, right? I felt like I got the small bit from Sydney in 5. I do feel like I got growth. She showed up, she was strong, she was forward thinking, gave no fucks, walked into a situation and just like didn't care, right? Whereas like in 6, I mean, it was sort of it was tropey for Gail, right? It wasn't great. So I think today where I'm at, it's Sydney. I think what I'm excited most to see is a couple of things here. Obviously, Sydney is a mother, right? They introduced that very slightly in 5, but I feel like seeing her as a mother in general, I'm interested to see how she interacts with her teenage daughter, especially as we heard same age when it first happened to her. I think the other part of this too, there's always that. So, for example, I'm going to refer to like Halloween 2018. You had Jamie Lee Curtis. By the way, I love Halloween 2018. So nobody like kill me yet. You had Jamie Lee Curtis, phenomenal movie. I really enjoyed it. But she was very like overbearing. She was paranoid. There was just a lot happening. There's the trauma aspect. You're considering mental health. I think it was portrayed accurately in some ways. Whereas like in 7, I think what I'm looking forward to is the trauma aspect, but what does strength look like, right? So I'm interested in seeing her engagement with her daughter. Is this going to be like an overbearing role, or is this going to be I need to support you in this journey to protect yourself against, the hate of the world. Right.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm hoping that's the side that we get. I'm hoping we get that, like, strength builder. So, I'm really looking forward to that. And then I really just want Gail to have, like, her moment to come back, to be there for Sydney, the two of them, the dynamic duo, the Batman and Robin, but just be really relevant to the story, right? And when I say relevance, I mean in a relationship standpoint with Sydney. So,
Mhm.
it may not be a story or an attack on Gail. Like, I understand that. But I think seeing what that support system looks like between two final girls over the course of years, right? And how they've come to today.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty brilliant. And I mean, I basically just co-sign everything. I want to just kind of address like what you mentioned about Laurie Strode and like, I Laurie Strode is so weird. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis she has a different idea about Laurie Strode than what Scream fans do or Nev does about Sydney. I think Nev is very grounded in Sydney. I think Nev is
Yeah.
very sure of like who Sydney is. And Sydney's
Yes.
writing, like she's always kind of been the same person. She hasn't been like, the Laurie of like Halloween 2 in 1981 is different from H2O versus in 2018 versus even Halloween Kills. They're also different, and I don't think Sydney is. So I think that like the Sydney we see is, I don't think she's going to be in over the top. I think her parenting style may be aggressive, but I think she's still going to be the calm person, and the sensible person deep down. But I think that it's going to be interesting just to see how she interacts with her daughter, how they connect, and how much the daughter listens to her versus doesn't, and how Sydney chooses to protect her. Because I think like it's just we've never seen Sydney having in this specific unique situation. Like, her protecting Jill in Scream 4 is much different than protecting her own. Just shows that so much new ground to cover with Sydney still as a character, even though we've been with her now for over 30 years. And as it pertains to Gail, what you said, I think is perfect. And I think that's what we're absolutely going to get. I would hope that Gail kind of gets to be restored to like her Scream 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of Gail, where she's really important to the plot. Like she's either like, after Sydney, the second or third most important person to the movie, like she used to be. I think a lot of Scream fans really, really want that. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think, you know, Sydney, that character is so compelling. How do I word this? It's not because it's not compelling because she's getting chased. At this point, she has been in this story with many of us as fans long enough to be no longer narratively convenient, right? So I think that's sort of what's great about her character. And I think as we come into this, you're looking at a character that refuses to sort of be consumed by the genre that made her famous, right? And so I think that's the excitement with Sydney that we see now. That's the excitement that I think legacy fans are looking for. I think it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned Kevin Williamson. What are your thoughts on Kevin, the director, Kevin, the writer? I mean, he's going to be writing. I mean, he wrote more than half of the script. He was not only credited as a writer, but he's credited above Guy Busick. Thank fucking God. What are your thoughts?
I'm very excited by this. I was a huge fan of The Following. I'm sure lots of your listeners have watched The Following. I'm very excited that we're going back to this. I think that there's a certain tone and a mood to these movies from the very beginning. And I think that's what's going to be nice. That tone and that mood obviously sort of shifted in 5 and 6 slightly. 4, I would say, has a slightly different mood, especially visually. But the tone and the mood of like 4, 1 through 3, I'm excited to get that back in a very like modern way. I think that I'm not a huge gore person. I don't mind gore movies, right? Like I don't mind them whatsoever. But it's kind of like that Alien thing where it's just creepy. It sneaks up on you. It just feels more thriller like as well, with a slight comedy edge to it. So I think bringing that back is going to be great. I think there's going to be a layer of meta again, but I think it's gonna relate directly to, today's commentary on society. So yeah, I'm excited he's back. I don't think I'd want anybody else to do it. I'm actually really glad. I like Chris Landon. I like his movies. I'm actually really glad that that just sort of fell through. I think you and I have talked about that a few times.
Well, imagine this. So, you know how a couple of minutes ago we were just talking about like how I said like I think that if we would have gotten that core 4 movie again, and yet another core 4 movie where no one dies, where it's goofy violence, where Sam becomes Ghostface, like and like whatever. I think had we done that, directed by Christopher Landon with his sensibilities, like I think it would have been I think that's even more to my point. People would have been so unhappy with the state of Scream, and it just would it would resemble such a different franchise than the one that we grew up with and the one that we want to believe Scream is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you mentioned earlier because you said, Scream 7 about like restoration, right? So like some of the commentary you see, I mean, there's haters out there that is just framing him coming back as nostalgia and like quality control, right? Whereas like when I hear Kevin Williamson's coming back, it feels more like he's authority. Like
Yes.
he is aware of of the Scream world, like super aware, right? Not because he just wrote the rules, right? But he understood why those rules existed in the first
Mhm.
place. And so I think so for me, like this isn't a convenience thing. This is probably one of the smartest moves they made.
And I completely agree with you. It's not I don't see this as a nostalgia thing. I see this as who is the fucking best person for the job. I mean,
Yes.
like, here's the thing about Scream, and I think that what some people get wrong about Scream is not the franchise that you can just hand off to anybody. It is something that is precious, that like it requires consistency and continuity, but also someone who's really smart and really in control. And I feel like Radio Silence proved with 5 and then with 6, right, that they were not in control. And I think Christopher Landon kind of has juvenile sensibilities. And I was thinking about like who else could have done this? Like, would they have gotten Eli Roth? That I wouldn't have liked that. I wouldn't have liked anybody, even directors that I do like their films in general. I just don't think that they fit Scream. And who does? Kevin Williamson. Like you're absolutely correct. This is about restoring. This is about getting the best person who fits this franchise. It's not about, it's not about like who is the trendy hot director right now. It's about fit and quality. And I think Kevin Williamson brings that grandeur, that weight that Wes Craven would have brought. And Wes Craven is kind of the key in the magic sauce of what made those first 4 movies so timeless.
And think about the timeliness of this, Ryan,
Yeah.
because he hasn't been involved. Nev wasn't in the last movie. So he represents narrative authority, whereas Nev Campbell, Sidney Prescott, represents survivor authority in the horror genre.
Yeah. They are it's like it's the perfect package in terms of like having people who are in control, who we can actually feel confident in, and also that represent a change, from the last 2 movies. And here's something that kind of bothers me is when people like the Melissa people, they say that, oh well, this is all just the same old thing, yet another Sydney story. We haven't had a Sydney story since fucking 2011, over 15 years. Like this is to say, oh, it's just another Sydney storyline. Give me a fucking break, you loser. Like, you're completely taking out context. You're completely like misrepresenting the facts. Actually, we've had 2 movies with Melissa Barrera and Radio Silence. So in some ways, we are evolving and making the franchise better in some ways.
I agree. I mean, all that noise with Melissa, the problem is she was positioned as a new Sydney. However, she was not written like any Sydney. So kind of strange.
She was written as the anti-Sydney, and I don't. And while people may think that's cool and edgy in the moment, like I don't think it has the long-lasting effects. Like to have a final girl who low-key enjoys murdering people, I don't think is cute, and it just doesn't really represent Scream in my opinion. But
Agree.
regardless, so Ryan, I want to ask you about the poster. So we recently got the big theatrical poster with all of the cast on it. I know it's not the traditional cast lineup that you and I love from Wes's films, but what are your thoughts on the poster?
So, of all the posters, I would say recently from 5 to now, you can tell this poster, I will say, listen, creatively speaking, it's very similar to 5 and 6, the way it's designed. I love this poster more. Personally, I'm a contrast person though, so that may have something to do with it. But also, I just feel like the poster just looks better to me. I think it looks better. I think it sounds better. When I say sounds better, like the tagline, but overall, yeah, I love it. I do miss the cast poster. I hope we get that. Because they'll throw in some random cast members, I'm sure. But yeah, it'll it'll be good once we get the legacy poster for sure.
Yeah. And it is in terms of the visual, I just think it looks aesthetically more pleasing than the other two. I think that
Mhm.
the photographs and like specifically like where we've been talking about Sydney and Gale, I think the poster indicates respect, mad respect for both of them. Not only because Sydney gets to be the biggest face on the poster, she takes up like a good fifth of it just herself, and then Gale is in the dead center, and she's bigger than the rest of the supporting cast. It just sends the right message, I think.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, listen, overall, it's what we would call like algorithm friendly in the marketing world, right? I think 1 through 3, even 4, like 4 to a degree, but those legacy posters, I feel like the word for it is like intimate. Like the posters they felt intimate. And so you treated fear as intimacy, right? Violence as spectacle. So I think that's why those of us love those posters more, is they feel more intimate. But yeah,
I agree. The thing about it is too is like, posters today, they have to include so many cast members and they have to like the studio thinks, oh, we have to have the villain on the poster. We never really had the villain on the posters for the original trilogy, so it's just odd. But yeah, so Ryan, I wanted to pivot back down to Scream and the original films, but also like your Scream ranking. So why don't you remind everybody what your Scream ranking is?
all right. So Scream ranking, I'm gonna go 3, hot take 4. I love
Mhm.
4. We talk about this often. I'm gonna go with 2, 1, 5, 6.
I that's an amazing ranking, and honestly, like, there's a version of Ryan Showers who this ranking is. I love that you're a 3 and 4 person because those are,
I
like,
am.
historically the underdogs who have been reevaluated and now they're seen as masterpieces. Like, we've known that they're masterpieces for 20 some years. Some people are now just getting around to it. So I just wanted to, like, give you an opportunity to speak as a 3 and 4 person.
Listen, Scream 3, with fans, I wanna tell people all the time, like, it deserves way better than people give it credit for. I mean, like, truly. I felt like Scream 3 was probably one of the riskiest of the movies from an element of like, bringing it right back to Sydney's, story with her mom again, right? I think you had that Hollywood exploitation also. You had the trauma that predated the first film by introducing those set pieces, when she saw the set piece in her mother's bedroom. I think it just escalated her trauma in a way that a lot of movies don't do well. Right? Like I felt like it made her revisit those points in her life that otherwise she would have not had to. And I thought that was really interesting because, we heard about Maureen in the first one, but we started to get actual like visual representation of Maureen. And so for me, that was actually really interesting and to a certain degree, less thriller like, more spooky, like, more haunted. And so it was good. I thought it was great.
Well, and like in terms of Scream 4, I just find Scream 4 to be so cool and like this idea like like you alluded to like the change in tone. Like Scream 1, 2 and 3, they feel cohesive. They almost feel like the same movie. They're like just, one big 6-hour movie whereas Scream 4 kind of comes in with a new sensibility, a new vibe. It's especially cool and it just feels of the moment and I find a lot of Scream 4 fans like people who love Scream 4 are those who are like kind of like in the millennial age range who aren't like full on like Gen Z. Like Gen Z is like the 5 and 6 people, but like Scream 4 has a lot of millennial people, and like I was the same age as the characters in the movie, whenever I was in high school. So I definitely get Scream 4, and over time, like I think that like that quality about it, the look, that's kind of criticized, the sound, and like the entire vibe of the movie. I feel like it feels better and looks better now that time has passed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like Scream 4, it nailed performative identity. It nailed influencer culture before like people were well aware of it. Trauma is currency, right? So like for me, the problem wasn't like insight into the commentary. I felt like audiences at that time just hadn't necessarily fully lived the Scream universe, which is interesting, right? Because in retrospect, that's disturbingly accurate. But I love Ford. Like I thought Ford was great, and Jill for me is probably the most honest Ghostface since Billy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. It really does.
That
Um,
line was, I don't wanna be famous for doing anything. I just want to be famous, or it's not really like slasher motive. It's more social diagnosis. So
yeah.
like, I felt like she was honest in who she was, in her truth. And so for me, I don't know. I always thought it was really unique when it was Jill.
So, in terms of the killers, we are going to be getting at least one, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four, who knows how many in Scream 7. Who would you like to see be the killer in Scream 7 of all the actors that we know so far?
Mindy. I was gonna I was gonna say Mindy says Sydney could kill her character. Here's the thing, I really liked Mindy in 5. 6, I was just like, "Oh my god, Mindy, what's going on?" Love Jasmine, Jasmine's great, but, the character, yeah. I think overall, to be honest with you, I don't know who I want to be the killer. I've tried to avoid, all those YouTube videos, speculation videos. I have watched some of the like trailer analyzations, but I don't, here's what I will tell you. I don't want it to be a family member again for
Yeah.
Sydney, right? I want it, I want it to be different. I want it to be related to, Sydney's history, who those characters are. I'm sure that character is like hidden. Here's the thing. I mean, you start to get used to some of these, I would just call them like the math equations of actors and who they are, right? So like Dermot Mulroney or whatever, of it all. And so, I could very well see somebody like with the star power of Anna Camp being one of them. I don't know who her character is necessarily or who she would be. So I don't think I have the right answer for that until I see like the next trailer because I want to see more characters involved. I also think, um, with the innocence of introducing uh Sydney's daughter, maybe for once it's not one of Tatum's friends, right? Like I could also see that. I could see this being unfortunately the consequence of being Sydney's daughter, right? So it could still be related to Sydney from like a revenge aspect, but it could be affecting Tatum directly as like a true victim.
Yeah. No, I like what you're saying, and I agree. I want Anna Kemp to be the Giller. I love her, and I think that she would be an iconic person to add into the legacy of Ghostface. And I really need like a cleanse after the acting by the Scream Six killers. I really hope that works with whoever the killers are here to make a really good performance. So, but the last thing I want to talk to you about quickly is our shared love of Sarah Michelle Gellar. She is having a moment in terms of new projects. She's kind of all over the place. She's doing interviews, she's doing makeup brand deals. She's also going to be playing Buffy Summers again in the Buffy reboot. We don't know when. Unfortunately, it does sound as though she is going to have more of a prequel legacy role than she will be a lead. But I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. But she's also going to be in Ready or Not too. So she's going to be in her first big screen horror movie in years, which is amazing.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to Ready or Not too. I love the first one. I just love I love everything. I love this. I love that story. I love the action in it. I love the comedy in it. I love that it was set in Barcelona and Toronto. Like it's just beautiful set pieces. So I'm really excited. That trailer looked really fun. I love that little scene where she shoots the gun and she's on the golf cart and she just starts laughing in the trailer. I'm like, oh, she's back. I can't wait. With the Buffy thing, obviously, I'm super excited as I'm talking to you. I'm drinking out of a 20-year-old Buffy mug, which I showed you before we started recording. I think if there's a reason that they've chosen to go that direction, there's a lot of these revivals, I will say, that have come back and have failed. Right. So my hope is that these decisions that they're making, even if she's not necessarily the primary focus, she's more supporting. I hope there's some intentionality to that, right? To the story, trying to create a new generation. I think, for us, when we watched Buffy back in the day, it was about the horrors of high school, right? And growing up and, monsters were all metaphors and things. And so like now, even as an adult, like it just turned 40 a couple months ago, I look around and I can't even imagine like what it's like to be a kid nowadays. Like it's got to be tough. Like, not only do you have the horrors of high school, but like you just have the horrors of social media. There's the socio-political landscape. There's a lot of commentary right now that our youth has to deal with, right? And so I feel like if there's a direction for this, my hope is that it comes swinging for the younger generation as well, but that also we get a real accurate version of where Buffy is today as a mentor.
Yeah. If I'm being completely honest about the Buffy reboot, I'm looking forward to it. And of course, I'm going to watch it. But just based off of the track record of a lot of reboots like this, or even like shows that Sarah has done, like the Wolfpack, whatever, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of hype and buzz that lead up to it. And then they just kind of are a womp womp. A lot of like legacy shows, like maybe they'll start out okay and they're exciting, but then like they trail off. Even like shows that I deeply love, when they come back and they're, going into their second or third season, I've lost interest. And I feel like, I hope that no matter what happens, Buffy, this new series, avoids that. I want to be invested in it, even if it is going to be an inferior show to the original. And that's kind of a hard place to be in, is like, they're making a show which everyone knows is probably going to be worse than the first one. And it's just, how do you maintain an audience and, capture on that? I don't know. We'll have to see.
She's getting all these brand deals now again too. So I feel like she's dipping her toe in a very large way. And to be honest with you, I think after Ready or Not, I think we're going to see a lot more. I think there's more coming for sure. And when I say more coming, I don't mean that Freddie Prinze Jr. I know what you did last summer bullshit. By the way, it's a whole different conversation. I know sometimes, I like to talk a little bit of shit
Well,
Uh,
let's talk
that
shit.
nonsense.
Let's talk shit. What did you think of I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Man, listen, there are parts in it that I enjoyed. I'm sure you know which ones. I'm sure. But here's the thing. Anybody who's listened to you for a long time, I'm sure you've heard past episodes. When this movie got announced and I heard that like Jennifer Love Hewitt was coming back, I was just like, there's no way. There's no way they're gonna do it. Right. Like I felt like first off, I was never the biggest Julie James fan. I always felt like she was a runner. She was a runner away from her, not necessarily a run into it. In this, I just felt like they didn't give her character the due diligence. I thought the movie was fun, right? I thought, from a pop culture standpoint, it was a little bit of a bop. Danica. I think Danica was great in it. I did love that scene where they tried to surprise audiences with Sarah Michelle at that point, obviously. But overall, I just felt like the story was weak. I actually hated the car crash in the beginning. I almost felt like they were like, you know what? Let's take this movie and slightly change it. And then, to be honest with you, it didn't really feel like that much of an illegal accident. Like it actually truly felt like an accident. Like almost felt like that group could have easily gone to the police. I just think they made bad decisions. But yeah, no, it just wasn't my favorite. It didn't hit the mark for me. But it's fun and it has an amazing soundtrack. If you haven't listened to it, the soundtrack is fun.
Well, speaking of a lack of risks, a lack of integrity, a lack of balls, I mean, that is the inciting incident of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Is like it's barely illegal what they do. It's not even illegal. I don't even know what it is. It's just kind of like a Tuesday night. But what did you think of Ray becoming the killer and the use of Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Well, the use of Jennifer Love Hewitt was garbage.
Yeah, the
Uh,
worst. Like even worse than Nev Campbell in Scream.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was complete garbage. Listen, same thing. It's so funny. That was always my biggest complaint about Julie James. Like she never does anything. If you watch that movie, she legitimately does nothing. She literally walked into the restaurant and still did nothing. Right. So like I don't know. It's just it for me. It's like okay, totally on brand for Julie James. It's fine. It's what I expected. Ray of it all, I will say, like when it came out that Freddie Prinze was coming back, and he was like, "Oh, I saw the storyline." I was like, "I just had to do this." In my head, I was like, "They're definitely going to make him the character. It's definitely going to be trauma related." And I just felt like to me, I don't know. I felt like it was a missed opportunity to do something bigger. I actually enjoyed the fact though that they weren't together. I think that's would have been a common occurrence with an event like that. But yeah, so
Well, you actually called me and you said the first thing you said to me was, "And Julie James still did nothing." And like, it's hard to argue against like your long-standing points, like things you said in 2022. It's like everything you said back then has turned out to be true in 2025 when it comes to Melissa Barrera, Julie James. Like, I mean, you were right. You were that bitch back then. Um, because she didn't. Like, it's so I can't believe that they fumbled Julie James so hard. With Ray, I don't mind that he's the killer. I can see both sides of it. For me, it worked enough, but I think that they needed more scenes, and I think that there needed to be a bigger finale for him for it to really be
yes.
satisfying. The last thing I want to ask you about is Helen and the flashback or the dream sequence with Sarah Michelle Gellar. What are your thoughts on her cameo, besides it being the best scene in the movie?
I thought it was so fun. I mean, here's the thing. Do I think it was necessary to drive like the story? 1,000% no, right? Do I think that was like legacy fanfare? Yes. There's a reason for that though. And that reason is for the most part in the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, people love Helen more than Julie. That's been established, right? And so you notice it really. God, this is gonna piss some people off of some Julie James fans. But when they were promoting this movie, we got way more promotion from Sarah Michelle Gellar about Sarah Michelle Gellar than anything to do with Jennifer Love Hewitt, right? And there's a reason for that. Like she is sort of that character is still the star moment. I mean, know what she did last summer. I know she dies. I get it. I get it. She's not technically a final girl. I said bullshit. She's still one. She's still one of the best characters in like a horror movie story. Sarah Michelle just embodied Helen Shivers in like no way. But beyond that, like it was my favorite scene. But I mean, do I think it was necessary for the story? Absolutely not. I'm glad they did it. Like, of a garbage movie, it was my favorite part. That's what we got. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's going to be a sequel.
I'm sorry, it doesn't deserve a sequel. Just like, frankly, Scream 6 doesn't deserve a sequel. It's like Scream 7 is its own start of its own new storyline with Sydney and with a restoration. It's just like, the quality of I Know What You Did Last Summer doesn't warrant a sequel. So,
No, it's almost like if they, how Marvel does those, in like different universe movies, or like where like I don't know, where like some of them turn into zombies or something. It's almost like, God, if there was another movie, like just change the whole thing. Helen survived and give me a Helen story. But we can't go back that far. But it
I
is what it is.
I agree. So, well, Ryan, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah. So officially just on Instagram. So it's Rise RYZE_04. Yeah, you can find me on there.
Well, thank you for this wonderful Ryan Squared shit talking episode.
Yes, let's do it again. And to all the Melissa Barrera fans, calm down. It's just an episode. Uh, Nev Campbell, if you're listening, we are so excited. Kevin Williamson, Ryan Squared, the two of us will be in Scream 8. Just give us a call. And I Know What You Did Last Summer, never again. All right. Sorry, Julie James.
Thank you for joining me for a little segment I'm doing to introduce one of my new Patreon supporters and members of the show. So, everyone, please welcome my friend, Joanna Espino.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, so off air, Joanna was telling me that she's like a newer listener, but she's going back and listening to all the episodes from 5 years ago. And I'm just like, oh, dear God, thank you for supporting the show and like catching up on things that you missed.
Of course, it's been such a blast just like getting to hear everyone's thoughts and like all of your guests and everything. So it's been fun. Nothing but good things to say, honestly.
Is it kind of surreal to be like almost like reliving Scream 5 and 6 through what we're saying as we're getting the new movie?
You know what? It is. I find myself like, I find it funny. So hearing you and hearing everybody just be very excited about it, ramping up to Scream 6, which hasn't come out yet so far, and what I'm listening to, and all of the ideas and the Nev situation, it's just so crazy to hear all of that. And then fast forward to today.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely changed a lot. I mean, I'm still like the same person and I still love the same things about Scream, but like there are certain things like back then that I wish I could go back and kind of redo. But, I'm just happy to be going into Scream 7, this new movie with Sydney coming back as the main character.
100%. I mean, she's my favorite, so
Well,
we'll.
Spoiler alert for the speedrun. I'm just teasing. Oh my gosh. Joanna, so I have a funny story. You've probably never heard of this movie. So I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, as you probably have heard on the show.
Yes.
And she did this movie called The Return. It came out in 2006. It's like a psychological ghost thriller. She has dark chocolate hair. And it was a post Buffy project, and her character's name in that is Joanna. So whenever like I got the email that you joined, that was what I thought of was Sarah Michelle
It gave
Gellar.
you that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm gonna have to look it up because I think I've seen it. And I have like this memory of a scene of hers in like a bathroom or something.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, she's great.
Oh my gosh. Well, so Joanna, please tell everybody, what is your Scream story?
Honestly, it goes back to my mom. Just
Aw.
growing up, she was huge. She's a huge movie watcher. She doesn't go so much to the movies now. It's kind of weird. She's kind of gone away from it, but it's kind of like a routine. We watch at least a movie every weekend. She showed me the first movie. I'm going to say I was probably a little too young. I was like 9 or 10. So I was born in 92. Showed me the second one. I watched the third one on my own. I kind of got ahead of it. But it's just a thing that we've always done. I grew up watching Resident Evil with her. She took me to watch the Underworld movies. It was always like this girl power thing with her and I. So I absolutely adore these movies because of that. It's just one of the first slasher films. Actually, it's the first slasher film I ever watched. And it'll continue being my number one forever.
Well, that
Yeah.
just like warms my heart because like it's one of my favorite Scream stories in a while, just because like Scream is so tied up with motherhood, right? Not only
Yes.
Sydney and Maureen, but also now this new iteration with Sydney and Tatum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually why I'm so excited. I thought that that's what we were going to get with 5. So I'm really excited to see that they're going in this route because that's what it's always been about. So I'm really happy with that.
So I have to ask, you and your mother, are you guys going to be watching Scream 7 together? Do you guys see them all together in the theaters?
So we do. I was on a work trip for 5 and I jumped the gun and I went to watch it because I had to. I'm chronically online. I was like, I don't want it spoiled. I have to watch it. But when I came back, we went. She was devastated with Dewey and everything. With 7, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm going to the Tampa con. So
Oh.
I'm probably going to watch it. I'm going with my niece who also loves the Scream movies. Yeah.
That's so cool. So Carrie, who is a member of the Patreon, she was supposed to go to that. I hope you have a
Okay.
great time, and please keep me posted.
Yeah.
Send me the pictures, and we'll get them up on my Instagram or like do a collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to, they had one in October and I met Jamie Kennedy, which was very interesting. Took a picture with him and he signed my Ghostface
Cool.
Funko Pop. So that was really cool.
Well, have you met any of the other cast?
No, I haven't. I'm super excited. This is the first time I got a Nev autograph from a friend who met her, I'm gonna say maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. It was for my birthday. She signed her picture there, but never met them.
Well, that's so if you go to the Tampa Con, that will be such a special, unique experience. I met Nev, not in person. I have her autograph too, like you do. A friend sent me something, but like,
Yeah.
it was during COVID. They did this panel, like all the regular convention people. They did a panel for this like cancer research or something, and
Okay.
you could if it was like paying. I think I paid like maybe like $90, and I got to
Yeah.
like have a Zoom with her, like a private like Zoom with her, and I. That was before I even had this show. So I barely ever talked to like famous people, you know so she was one of the first, and I just remember after I met her, like she hung up the Zoom, and I just started crying. And I just
I believe it. Yeah.
so I can't explain it because I didn't feel that way with anyone I met, because then at the convention I met in March with Carrie, I met David, Skeet, Jamie, Dermot, who I was convinced that we were in love and we were going to get married on my way out.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, I love that.
but that's just me being delusional. Joanna, please tell me, what is your Scream ranking?
So I've always struggled with this one just because as much as I love 3, I love 2.
Okay.
But I've always said it's 3, 2, 1, 4, 5, 6.
Wow. So if you're listening like from the beginning of the podcast onwards,
Mhm.
my sister and I, Scream is something I share with her really deeply,
Yeah.
that we've shared together for 20 years now, and that is exactly her ranking.
Really? I love it. Okay. I didn't remember that. Yeah, I love both of those movies. I think 3 just gets the win because I love Sydney's storyline in that movie. It's like a perfect culmination of her character.
And like honestly, that was probably my ranking ish for a long time too. Like, because I have grown to love 1 in a way that I didn't when I was younger. Growing up, like for before we ever had 5 and 6, my ranking was always 3, 2, 1, 4. There's just something there's something where I get the vibe of like 2 is better than 1 and 3 is better than 2. Like there's just something
Mhm.
about it that grows and grows, and there's
Yeah.
like a Wes Craven effect, I think.
I think so too. Listen, I love 1. It's probably the one that I rewatch the least,
Okay.
apart from 5 and 6, which I do. I won't lie, I do rewatch them, but it's the one that I rewatch the least. It would kind of flip flop with 1 and 4 though. Like those, I would sometimes say 3, 2, 4, 1. But just in so many rewatches and getting older, I'm gonna give 1 the win on that one.
3, 2, 2 to 1. I think that just there's something about the characters growing, and like all 3 of them, Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, each like over that original trilogy. Like I just posted a Gale ranking just last night, and like I know Scream 2 is her best, and I have it up front for her. On a good day of me watching Scream 3, I would say that the trio are all at their best in Scream 3, even if I know Gale has a special thing in Scream 2, just because like in each movie it just feels like they get bigger and bigger and more fleshed out and more a part of our hearts. And then you have like the story of Maureen, and just like the way that Wes Craven kind of communicates in his direction from over the trilogy. I just feel like he gets more comfortable in the trilogy as it goes along, and there's just something sweeping about it. I don't know.
100%. And I think that's why for me, it's not just Sydney, it's Gale and Dewey. It gets better in every movie, no matter what people say, because, people tend to not like sequels just in general. They always hold 1 to be the best. And I get it, but it's just a great story all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so where do you stand with 5 and 6? Do you like, in terms of like at the time it came out versus now?
So I watched 5 completely alone. Like I said, I was at a work trip, so I watched that movie completely alone. And I won't lie, I came out of the movie not entirely liking it. Not because Dewey died. I love the opening. I thought it was really good. I just didn't feel like I liked the movie. When I watched it the second time, I went with my mom, I went with my family. I came out a little bit more like, okay, I appreciated what they were trying to do. I didn't like what they did with Sam being Billy. Did not appreciate it. Felt very tell and not show for me.
Right.
I felt like they could have shown her trauma about finding out about her dad a little bit better than just showing us that she sees him.
Right.
They could have done a little bit more with that. With 6, I think it's a perfectly fine slasher movie. I do not like it as a Scream movie at all. I don't like the reveal. I don't like any of the characters. Yeah, no, it's not for me. It's not a good movie.
Yeah. So, and that's very much how I feel. I mean, I don't know. So, Regina and I are recording today. This is January 12th. I just had a big episode go out about Sam Carpenter being Ghostface in Scream 7. Like, just curious what your thoughts are as somebody who's new to the show, but has been with Scream for a while, knowing what I know about what you said about 5 and 6 and what you said about the Billy hallucinations. What are your thoughts on what this original path would have been for Scream 7 if, it would have proceeded, in this way to make Sam Ghostface in terms of the Scream 6 of it all? I see Sam as a good person in Scream 5, or at least I see the goodness in her. And then in
Mhm.
6, I just see this huge change, and the film is the film is kind of cheering on her doing things that I just don't find heroic. And that's probably like, besides Gail Weathers, Gail's like my biggest issue with Scream 6, and this would be number 2.
Yeah, no, totally. So, had they not made her the protagonist, I'd be totally in. Yeah,
Okay,
make
yeah.
her Ghostface,
Mhm.
totally. And I think I commented this in one of your posts where I said I would have totally been in with the reveal in 5 being that she was actually Ghostface and she's the one that attacked her sister. I thought that that would have been a better thing if she were not the protagonist.
Yeah.
I think they tried really hard to make her like the anti-hero, and that just doesn't work in Scream. That's not
Yeah.
what these movies are about. This isn't Yellow Jackets.
So, have you ever seen the movie Black Swan?
Yes, I have. Love that.
I almost feel like what they thought they were doing was they thought they were doing Black Swan in terms of like giving us like this. There would be a reveal at the end how it shows that Natalie Portman's character, with the whole movie, we think that Mila Kunis is the villain. And it actually turns out that Natalie Portman, she stabbed herself and that she is the bad guy. And
Yeah.
Mila Kunis is just some random person that she's jealous of or she has envy of. That's what they thought they were doing. I'm so glad that you kind of caveated this. And maybe I should have said this more in the episode today about like, emphasizing the protagonist aspect, because like once you take the protagonist aspect out of it, like she would have been interesting. And like the whole argument, we had this big like debate on the panel today about Sydney and like how the only way this could have worked is if Sydney was also in the movie and they were either co-leads, or that Sydney was the main character and Sam was there, and that's how Sydney could take Sam down in this final fight.
100% would have worked too. That would have been amazing. I just don't think making 3 movies and then on the third one you have this huge reveal after her ending in 6. Listen, despite what I think about the movie, I think her dropping the mask was
Yeah.
beautiful. And it
Mhm.
was the best ending that they could have given her. That's it. Don't take that back and then reveal her to be the killer. That just doesn't make any sense. You're ruining a perfectly fine character.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So I appreciate that. Okay. So I love your ranking. Deep down, I would probably say like that is like my most pure, who I am on the deep, deep inside, not the grizzled, cynical person. Your ranking is my ranking. I recognize it so much. So I have to ask though, what are you most looking forward to in Scream 7?
To be honest, it's the mother-daughter relationship. I love those types of stories. And it might be because of my own relationship with my mom. I just love it. I think there's so much to tell there. Hopefully, I don't think that anything will happen to Tatum. Hopefully they come out perfectly fine. I just think it works well with just the storyline of what these movies are. Sydney and Maureen. Then you have Sydney and her daughter. We'll see what happens if she's going to have little kids in this movie, how they implied in the previous ones. See how that's going to work out.
Would you want her to? Would you want the little kids to be here, or do you want to save them?
For continuity, I think I'd be fine with them sending them away, as like maybe we see them for a few minutes and then they send them away.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. But for the sake of continuity, 100%. Would it make it a bad movie for me if they just drop it and don't? No, I don't think it would be an issue for me.
Well, from what I've been told, the kids they exist. They're like at grandmas, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
I think that I think it's so interesting. Like I will give Guy and Jamie credit for this. Like I think I even said this on the Scream 5 review back in the day that they are clearly planting the seeds to make as many Scream movies down the road, because it could be the focus with Sydney for a couple of movies, and then the other daughters could come up to be, and we could have like an older daughter and a younger daughter, like Halloween 4 or something. I have to ask, since you said that you love stories like that. So in general, are you a Halloween fan?
God,
Complicated.
don't hate me for this.
Oh no,
I really don't like the first and second Halloween.
okay.
I love H2O.
Well, that's
I
where I'm
think
going with this. It's because in my mind, the way that I'm envisioning Scream 7 going down is there's going to be like a strong, in the way that like Laurie Strode and John, that relationship. I could see a lot of that in Sydney and Tatum.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
I thought that's where you were. I assumed when you said that, I was like, oh, she's probably talking about H2O. Okay, well, do you want to hit some speedrun questions with me?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So you're going to be one of the last people to get these because I'm going to update them after we
Okay.
get Scream 7. So this is fun. Okay, so Sydney, Gail, or Ty?
Sydney,
Okay.
for sure.
Sam or Tara?
Sam.
You
I
haven't
love
mentioned
Tara, but
you haven't mentioned anything about Tara.
I like her opening.
That's great.
Yeah, I think she's fine. I don't know. I feel like they could have done a lot more with the sister dynamic. One of my favorite animated movies is Frozen because of the amazing sister dynamic that they have there. So I don't know. I feel like it's missed up. A lot of this with 5 and 6 is just missed opportunities. The mother-daughter dynamic between, their missing mother, Sam and Tara. So yeah, that's how I feel.
I also love Frozen. Frozen and Frozen 2 are we'll do a podcast about them.
Awesome.
Okay. Dewey or Chad?
Dewey, for sure.
Favorite movie buff?
I'm gonna go with Randy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite killer?
So that one's another one that's hard for me. Can I give you a top 3? Roman, Mrs. Loomis, and Jill.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Well, I love the fact that Roman is her brother. I think I think the reveal that he was behind Scream 1 really did it for me.
Yeah.
It was shocking when I heard that the first time. I think must have been like 13 or 14, and it never crossed my mind that they could potentially give us it's not a prequel, but it is, in his confession of what he did, is essentially a little bit of a prequel that they're giving us. I will say I always wanted a Marine prequel growing up. Like, I was obsessed with the idea of having that, and just knowing that you could potentially see Roman in the background kind of conspiring to do all of these things is beautiful to me. With Mrs. Loomis, it's just a revenge plot. I don't think there's anything purer than a mother trying to take revenge on the person that murdered their child, no matter how crazy their child is. Those are some of my favorite characters. I tend to give villains the benefit of the doubt when it comes to who are you hurting? Is it someone that hurt you in one way or another? And that's kind of why I love her. And then Jill, honestly, it's because she's insane.
Yeah.
She's just crazy. It's hilarious.
Well, and my top killers are Roman and Jill. I assume that you would be a Roman girl. Just like if you're a 3-person, I can assume you're probably a
Yeah.
Roman person. And the fact that you waffled between 4 and 1, I figured you were also a Jill person. And I also just think if you're a Roman person, you're probably a Jill person, just because the blood connection and that intimacy with Sydney. I don't know. There's just something about the original trilogy, and I would love for 7 to bring this back. It just feels so when Sydney is face to face with the killer in each of those finales, it's so intimate. With Roman, it's different because it's just the two of them, and it's emotional, and they're meeting for the first time, and I feel like they live an entire life in those 13 years of the
100%.
finale.
They got to see who they are as people in just those few minutes, and it's beautiful.
I just feel like both of them are completely different. Also, they change so much from the beginning of the finale to the end of the finale. And then with Jill, it's so intense. I remember seeing Scream 6, and then after seeing Scream 6, I came home and watched Scream 4, and I remember just feeling wow, this is what I was missing from Scream 6. There's an intimacy between Sydney and Jill and Nev and Emma. They're so close. I don't know.
100%. I really love, I think at the time, Emma Roberts had never played anyone like this before.
Correct, yeah.
So that reveal was also crazy, when she stabs her and takes her mask off. It's completely, I felt when I watched that, I watched it in the movies when it first came out, that one. It felt like when I was watching the Roman reveal. Well, his confession. The reveal was a bit weird because it's oh, I thought he was dead. Like, "Oh, no, okay. Oh my god, it's her brother. This is crazy." That's it. Jill gave me that, so that's why I have her in there because it gave me a little bit of that same feeling from the original trilogy.
Well, I'm glad. That's so nice. And Jill, in my mind, she's just so larger than life. She's so Titanic. She's just, in some ways, like they designed like the greatest killer, like objectively. Like I know, like this is all opinion based, but like if you just look at like metrics, like I think of Jill, like, and even though Roman's my favorite, and I think that he's the best in my heart, I think that a reasonable person could say, a consensus would say that Jill is the best. If you look at screen time, if you look at like blood relation to Sydney, her motive, the factor of surprise, the fact that she almost gets away with it, the fact that she kills people in the costume, outside of the costume,
100%.
like she has the whole package.
Yeah. For a while, Jill was my number 1.
Yeah.
I kind of pushed her to the side because I've rewatched the first 3 so many times that I just, it's Roman and Mrs. Loomis. She's amazing, and she almost got away with it.
So I did this episode. I'm not sure if you've listened to it yet. It was at the beginning of December with my friend Jess Melendez, and we did it. We talked about what our fears were about Scream 7. Like, I mean, basically from episode 150, whenever it was announced that Nev and Kevin were coming back, I have been steamrolling with like positivity and joy and like supporting Scream 7. But at this point, the trailer had come out. Everyone was excited about it. There was unanimous praise for it in December. And Jess and I sat down and we were like, okay, what are we actually afraid of? We're really excited about this. There's so many things that could go right, but there's some things that could go wrong. And I said that something that scares me is that Kevin wrote the script, but Guy Busick also helped write it, and he wrote the first draft. And like, what if the
Yeah.
killer or ers aren't up to par with the West killers? Are we ever going to get the West killers back? So I want to throw that to you. What do you think?
I feel like so let me bring in 5 here for a little bit. I didn't totally hate the toxic fandom reveal. The only thing that I disliked about it is that it really didn't tie into who Sam was as a person, who Tara was as a person, who Sydney was. I feel like what they did with Jill was she wants to be famous, but it is still tied into the jealousy growing up, always hearing about Sydney. She's family. They were able to merge these 2 ideas into this perfect reveal
Yeah.
that I think that even if Guy wrote, this script where the reveal is not that great, I think I trust Kevin to be able to kind of link it in a way where it makes sense. It's like, why are we coming back here again? Why are they going after Sydney and her daughter?
Yeah.
It can't possibly be because they just want to be famous or, they just want a new star. They want to kill Sydney, so Tatum's the new Sydney. What is the real reason behind this? What is your tie? And I think Kevin I think he will be able to do it. I think I'm positive. I don't think I'm concerned with the ending of the movie.
So, if you had to take a guess, or is there anybody in the cast that you look at and you think, "Ooh, I want them to be the killer"?
Well, I wanted Anne Camp to be the killer just
Yeah.
because I love her. She's amazing.
Are you a Pitch Perfect fan?
Obsessed. Love those movies.
My family is obsessed with Pitch Perfect. Like my mother and my sister, like the January, February of 2013, we probably watched Pitch Perfect. I am not kidding you, every single night. I've probably seen it hundreds of
That's
times.
awesome.
I know every word to every song, every line of every like scene of dialogue. Like I actually just kind of had it on in the background last night. And I was kind of watching Anna Camp specifically because of Scream 7 coming up.
Mhm.
I would kill, pun intended, right, for Anna Camp to be a
To
Scream
be the
killer.
killer.
Yeah.
I agree. I watched that movie in my room alone, and I literally stepped out of my room and I said, I need someone to watch this movie with me right now
Aw.
because it's hilarious. Yeah.
Excuse me?
Oh, God, I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, favorite opening and favorite finale.
I'm going to say 2.
Okay.
I think the concept, favorite opening 2, favorite finale, I'm going to say 3. I really like the reveal with Roman. I do. And I love the opening with the theater. I think it's what's more telling about society to have someone just murdered in front of you and you have no idea.
Yeah, right?
I think it's beautiful.
So I figured you would say 3. So I was like,
Yeah.
just say Scream 3 for finale.
For sure.
Do you have a favorite scene in any of the movies?
This is funny. I know most people hate this scene. I don't think you might expect this. Scream 2, when Derek sings to Sydney. I don't
I
know
like
why.
it.
I just love that scene.
It's like key to character development, you know?
It's so cute. Like, I feel I watch a lot of reaction videos, and the majority of the time I love watching people, they just cringe at it. I'm like, no, it's beautiful. What are you talking about? It's this person confessing like they're in love, and Sydney's there, and everything that kind of leads to that scene is also perfect too. Kind of get this brief moment with Sydney just being a kid. She's still a kid.
And like Derek's death would not be nearly as impactful without that scene.
100%.
And that's like one of my favorite. Like I said this on a podcast recently, but like Phil, I stand by it. Like that scene of Derek's death is my favorite Sydney scene that isn't in Scream 3.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
do
It
you have?
impacted her so much that
Yeah.
she's literally wearing the necklace in 3, which is amazing that they even thought to, to continue that.
So do you know? Do you know whose idea that was?
Whose?
That was Nev Campbell's.
I love it. Of course it was. She's a
Which
theater person.
I can't believe, like, I respect that so much because, like, some people will say that she doesn't care about the movies or the story. She doesn't remember things from all these years ago. But in my opinion, remembering that from going from 2 to 3, 97 to 99 when they shot that, I'm impressed that that she was taking the role seriously enough to put herself in the headspace of what Sydney would do in a situation like that. Like, she didn't have to volunteer
100%.
that.
No, she didn't. Even her clothes. I heard somebody say that it's almost like she's stuck in the past. Like she can't move on from what happened,
Yeah.
and she can't forgive herself. I don't know. It's why 3 is so good.
Exactly. Do you have a favorite kill or death across the franchise?
I don't think I've ever thought about that. Let me see. I don't think I do. I really like Tatum's stuff only because she fought so hard. Like you almost feel like she's gonna get away, and you want her to get away. Her kind of like asking for her mom as she's about to die. Yeah, probably that one.
That's good. Do you have a favorite supporting role across the franchise?
So I have 2 answers for that one. I love Jennifer Jolie. I think Parker Posey's hilarious. She's amazing. I watch everything that she's in. I really love Kirby. I think that we should have seen more of her. It's probably what I hate the most about 6, which sucks because of how much I love her, but those 2.
So traditionally, I think I'm going to bring this question back. I had a question that was Jennifer or Kirby? Like, who's your preference of the 2?
You know what? I've heard you ask this question, and I think that's why I've thought about it. Because, so as a standalone character that you see one time, Jennifer, I think what she does with the screen is amazing. Her chemistry with Gail is perfect. They're so funny. I love her scene where she's like, "I'm obsessed. You're obsessed with her, and you're obsessed with her daughter." That's amazing. But I always think Kirby simply because there was so much potential for what we could have with her after the fact. With the sequel that we didn't get after 4.
I think another way you could have really made Scream 6 an amazing movie is by giving Kirby like and Gale like real scenes, like if they could have been investigating together. I don't mind their dynamic. Like a lot of people think it's so great with the jokes. I think it's cute, and I like their scenes together. Obviously, I think they're 2 of the better actors in Scream 6. But I would have just loved a full-on relationship with them,
100%.
working together, the whole 9 yards.
I think so too.
So I would love for Kirby to be in a Scream movie again.
I know. I kind of hope that she would be in 7, but I get why they wouldn't want to. They're kind of coming back to Sydney. But if we get an 8, which, here's hoping, maybe she can come back. I mean, they made her an FBI agent, so she really could.
I hope so. So, Joanna, you've proven that you are a Scream expert or a really amazing Scream fan at the least here. But I want to know, what are your thoughts on Scream the TV series?
I liked the first season. I was okay with the second one. There's a third, right? I haven't watched the third one, and I think that's it. I don't think it should be called Scream. I think it's a better just slasher.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know the behind the scenes as to why they didn't do like an actual ghost face. I really don't know if it's a rights thing or what happened there.
It was a rights thing, and like the Weinsteins were involved, and like it was a mess. But they actually do bring the mask back in season 3, but it's all new characters. Like it's a revamp, and it's not good. It's like
Really?
the
Oh,
mask. The mask is literally the only good thing about season 3.
that sucks. I might rewatch it. I might change my mind. I watched it when it was live. And it was fine. I don't even remember the character names, honestly.
Well, I will say that I liked this TV series more now. Like, so I watched it when it was live as well. I didn't like it back then. I was much more of a snob back then. During COVID, I watched it again, and I started warming up to it. And then like it wasn't until the 5 and 6 era where I really started to be like, okay, no, it's this is, for better or worse, this is part of the IP, and I'm here for it.
That's funny. I love that you say that because I think I've become more of a snob now than I was before. Before I used to just like watch movies and it's like, whatever, it's fine. It's just a movie. But now I'm like defensive about things. Outside of like Sydney's my favorite character, I'm very like, I love movies centered around women. So the fact that Sydney and Gail are they're the leads of this story is amazing to me. I think, I've mentioned before, I love Resident Evil. I love Alien. I love Underworld, all of these female led movies. So for me, that's a plus. But I love murder mysteries. Like I'm obsessed with the Knives Out series. I need more of these movies. And when you combine it with a slasher movie, you've got me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Joanna, this has been such a lovely chat, and it was so nice to get to meet you. And thank you for joining the Patreon. And I'm so happy you're part of the community, and I look forward to doing other episodes with you. You're the real deal, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's honestly awesome to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to keep listening to your older episodes.
So, Joanna, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's JSESPINO 1114. And I have a TikTok with the same username.
Joanna, thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for this Taylor Swift segment. Ashley, hello.
Hello, Ryan. How are you?
I'm bored. I'm also tired of everything. I'm waiting for a train that just ain't coming.
Feel you. I feel you.
Ash, please tell everybody what the Taylor Swift song of the day is.
Taylor Swift song of the day is from 1989. It's one of my favorite songs. This is New Romantic. It is track 16. It came out on the deluxe edition of 1989, or you can find it on Taylor's version. This was written by Taylor, Shellback, Max Martin, and Eric Braun, produced by Shellback and Mark Smart. And if I were to sum it up, I'd say it's kind of like a really fun anthem for being young and exploring that fun phase in life where fun is important and kind of discovering yourself. It's almost like it's like finding yourself in your young adulthood, an anthem for it.
Well, so here's the thing about New Romantics. It is my favorite song on 1989. I have come to this conclusion like over a period of time. And 1989 has always been kind of weird for me because I know all of the big hit singles so well. I mean, 1989, and we all do. That's the thing about the culture. If you've been around and alive during the years of 2014 to 2017, you know these songs that are on this album. It's often referred to as the pop Bible, and a lot of the songs are big radio hits, including this one. This one came, of course, later on. And not during the Blank Space, the Bad Blood, Shake It Off era, right? But just a little bit later, because like you referenced, it's on the deluxe. So it's been hard for me as a Swiftie, as a Swiftie proper, who kind of leans more sad girl vibes to begin with, to then look at 1989, which has all these huge songs that I have known so well for so many years, and try to make sense of it now as a Swiftie. And I have to say, this song, the New Romantics, it speaks to me on a very specific level, and I wanted to do it sooner than later on the show because of I have a very specific Scream tie-in, and that is, for me, this is my Scream 4 song and my Kevin Williamson song. I just feel like Kevin Williamson and the way he writes Scream characters and youth in 1996, but also 2011, being known for doing Dawson's Creek and The Faculty and H2O and all of these teenage projects and writing teenage characters so well. I just feel like his characters' essence and spirit is captured really well in this song. And I'm going to take it even a step further to connect the Kevin Williamson and Taylor Swift, here with New Romantics. I feel as though, as a millennial, I feel very understood by this song. I feel like this song is almost like a millennial anthem in a way. I feel like it really captures what it feels like to be in our age group over the past 10, 15 years. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ash?
No, I completely agree. I always find it interesting because I think 1989 is a really sad girl album. None of these songs are happy.
Yeah. Out of the woods, right? That's so happy.
Yeah. Remember when you hit the brakes too hard and I almost died? Anyways, but no, I completely agree with you. I think what's interesting is I feel like, because I'm not sure, like, when you heard 1989, like, as an album for the first time, but like I heard the majority of these songs before they were hits, right?
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
I never think of them as being on the radio,
Yeah.
except for Shake It Off. That's
Yeah.
the only one I think of as hearing as a hit, because I was just listening to the album. Like, I wasn't listening to the radio. So like I heard Out of the Woods for the first time, I don't know, 20 minutes after the album came out. You know what I mean? But I completely agree with you. Like, I feel like this is a super millennial, or it's like a power ballad dedicated to us. It feels like it. There's a lot of duality in the lyrics, and I totally associate it with Scream for young, exciting thing about it. And I feel like that's how we all felt for Scream 4. And when we look back, I think it's also something that we have a lot of nostalgia and a lot of love for. It might not have, not for everybody would have been there when it came out, but like you put on some 1989 songs and people will be like, oh, yeah, I know this one. When people reference Taylor Swift and they say, I know some of her songs, a lot of times it is from 1989.
Exactly.
But it also has, I love this song because it also has some of my favorite lyrics. I think it's so fun. There's a lot of, like I said, duality to it. But it's just so fun. Like this is one of the songs that I'm like, I can't believe it's not on the original version.
It's so funny to me. Whenever I think about this song, I think about 1989 overall. I almost feel like this is such a good recap or summary of 1989. Like I feel like a lot, if you look at 1989 as a whole, the spirit of this song is almost like a summary of 1989 in a way. At least that's how I see it. And it just thematically being free and this new environment and kind of just having the like this like idea of like just kind of dancing through life and like. So I want to like go more specifically because like I do think there is this song is very fun, but I want to talk about what it means to me as a millennial and why I think it kind of why I connected to Scream 4 specifically, because Scream 4 is the movie of Jill Roberts and the social media kind of revolution. And I think with millennials, we have had I feel like we've lived through like 10 earth-changing events in our time. We've been dealt a lot of crappy cards, and like from, our futures are very different for us now than they were for our parents at our ages, right? And like we went to college, a lot of us took out student loan debt, the economy feels impossible in some ways. You have like the older generations who are annoyed with us, but then you have the younger generations, like the Gen Z, kind of being pains in our ass too. So it's just like, I feel like sometimes like there's an aspect of millennials, the millennial generation, where we disassociate. And I feel like disassociation is very coded within this song. It goes farther than that. It's Taylor being aware of the disassociation.
That makes complete sense. And I think maybe our generation is a little misunderstood. I think a lot of us are uniquely ourselves. Apparently, that can be really cringe. So maybe everybody's just jealous, Ryan, jealous of us millennials. I think a lot of people can also say like, oh, well, like a lot of generations went through stuff, and that is true. But I think we're one of the first generations to have everything thrust upon us so heavily just because of social media becoming popular, the internet's popularity, the access to news. For a long time, the stories that people heard were a few international stories here and there throughout the newspaper, obviously, and like world events was like an exception. And then there's what's going on in your country, what's going on in your neighborhood. But when you have access to all of that information, and you can literally remember watching live television of some of the most historical events, like while you were literally in school, which some of them I think I might have been a little bit young to be watching live.
Right.
As an adult now, I go, oh, I don't know if I would have made that same decision, but that is okay. I think we
We're
might
too
be a
busy
little
dancing.
bit, I think we might have been a little fucked up. Yeah. I think we might be a little bit fucked up because we saw so much. Like we saw so many visuals as young people. And I think this captures, like, I feel like I'm talking about the song, but not talking about the song right now. Sorry, guys. But I feel like this captures that feeling of like the lyrics, like, 'cause baby, I could build a castle out of all the bricks they threw at me. And every day is like a battle, but every night with us is like a dream. Like, I feel like that captures kind of like what it felt like being like, holy shit. And I feel like Gen Z can probably really relate because they're seeing so much shit all the time and being bombarded with more fake aspects of social media that they'll have a completely different perspective of it. But I love how they're talking about how like every day feels like a battle, but every night feels like a dream. And don't you remember like just being like everything is so fucked and then like you got to like hang out with the people you wanted to hang out with that night and everything just felt better for a second.
You mentioned how you feel like it connects with Scream 4. This song, the tone, the beat, the vibe is similar. It's like you could put it in the same bucket as the songs in Scream 4. Like the weird songs like, Something to Die For, Make My Body Go, the Cupcake song. I don't know, just the soundtrack of Scream 4. I feel like New Romantics really it could just be on the soundtrack for Scream 4 and it would make total sense.
100%. And I can imagine, can't you imagine the girls dancing to this song
Yeah.
or like getting ready and like if we saw them, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of millennial women sit on the floor and do their makeup. But I imagine like Kirby and Olivia and Jill listening to this song, getting ready, and Olivia and Kirby are like, "Oh, we're gonna have a fun weekend. Like everything's coming up us. Like we're gonna have this fun." And Jill's like, "I'm gonna murder you."
Again,
But I also think
dissociation.
like Jill would be like, "The rumors are terrible and true, but honey, most of them are true." Like in her mind, she'd be like, "Ha ha ha." And the other girls would be thinking about being like more ironically, and she's thinking, "Yeah, they are true."
Oh my gosh. Well, let's run through some lyrics here. So the song starts out, we're all bored. We're all so tired of everything. We wait for trains that just aren't coming. We show off all of our different scarlet letters. Trust me, mine is better. Better. Gosh, I said it like she sings it in the song. Better. We're so young, but we're on the road to ruin. We play dumb, but we know exactly what we're doing. We cry tears of mascara in the bathroom. Honey, life is just a classroom. Everything I see here, again, it just feels like this is I don't know. I can't explain it other than to just say it's a millennial experience to have this level of irony, right? We're so ironic with everything. We're very self aware, and we're aware of like the irony that goes with things that we say and things that we feel, and just also this idea of like things that are laced with these phrases and these lyrics is I think the point of what she of all this is like things aren't really changing, but things aren't getting better, and we're just here. You know what I mean? And we know things aren't getting better. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I like even just like when you were reading that, like there's like things that I don't know if I fully took in some of like oh like life is just a classroom, and I think we are kind of a generation that we've chosen to be like, if we want to know what's going on in the world, but at the same time, we're going to meet up with our friends, have a beer, and talk and only movie quote that. But one of my favorite lines is, "The best people in life are free." And I think that's like any generation can relate to that, which I really like. And I hope that a lot of people can, I feel like young people in general can relate to this song, or at least I hope they can. But the best people in life are free is really something that, like, as I've gotten older, I've realized is like a really important thing to live by. I think that a lot of people in Scream probably have realized that the best people in life are free. They're not gonna have a vendetta against you. They're not gonna have a list of crimes that you quote unquote like committed. They're not gonna have this debt that you owe them because XYZ. And like free can be literal too. It can be about like not wanting like especially for someone like Taylor, like I've never been rich. So but I can imagine that if you were, how a lot of new people would come out of the woodwork and have like their eyes on you. But to me, I've always taken it as those people are going to love you for who you are and not judge you and not have a list of reasons or like a petty list of reasons why you quote unquote owe them.
And so here, a line two in this is very millennial. Is like we show off our different scarlet letters. Trust me, mine is better. I find that to be so funny because like this is also very millennial, where we're very like into and aware of like our differences and our traumas, and like it's like and like it's like even among survivors, like I can just like with Jill Roberts, there's like an emphasis on Sydney's mother died. Oh well, my mother died too, and I was thrown through a glass coffee table, and Trevor stabbed me in the shoulder and I lost my cousin all in the same night. Oh gosh, I don't know. Bragging about like our trauma, I don't know.
She's like that. It's like that character on SNL where like she's like always like it starts with Kristen Wiig and she's always one upping people. And I also love the Scarlet Letter line because I think millennials love to reference things from the past,
Yeah.
but also it's also a reference to a pop culture moment that was big in our generation, which is like obviously you have the Scarlet Letter, but that also influenced Easy A,
Hmm.
which both of like when we hear that, we think of both of those as millennials, and I hope that new generations do too, because I feel like I really hope Easy A holds up because I fucking loved that movie back in the day. But I think you're right on the money when you said that. And I think there's like this like thing of like wanting to share everything as millennials sometimes. And that like the trauma dumping aspect that we sometimes I think put upon each other. I'm fucking guilty of it.
Me too.
But also like I've always felt like I think I've always done it in a way of like trying to be like related to somebody, like trying to be like, no, I totally understand. Like I don't want this person to feel alone. And I think so many of the stories we saw from other generations were them not expressing anything, not saying, so it's like, oh, like I've never been through that exact thing, but like I can relate. But sometimes it really feels like we're trying to be like, you had this happen to you? Well, gave me 5 McNuggets and not 6 yesterday, and they gave me the wrong sauce. Whatever, Emily, you know what I mean? And, like, it'd be like the Pretty Little Liars girls, like, looking at me being like, "Really? That's what you're upset about? Like, your entire life? Well, guess what? I was traumatized by Secret Note for, like, 15 years."
Well, and like the thing that I think captures this song most astutely, the line is heartbreak is the national anthem. We sing it proudly. We're too busy dancing to get knocked off our feet. And I feel like, again, that's the dissociation and like the numbness that we see in Scream 4 in particular, like in terms of the way that like those characters are kind of conditioned. Even like at the Stabathon, like, poor Olivia was killed and they're too busy dancing to get knocked off their feet.
And also, I've always thought about, like, going to the Stapathon as being like, "Hey, they can't kill us all. The best place to be is in numbers," you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the Stabathon. I would totally go to the Stabathon if I was living in Woodsboro.
I 100 would not have. I would have been like, "No, I am gonna stay in my room with a knife in the corner, and I'm gonna watch YouTube videos."
Chocolate milk and cheese. Oh my gosh. So, well, Ash, thank you so much for going through the New Romantics with me. Please tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can find me at Squirrel and Spud9 on Instagram. There you will find my ramblings, interesting, fun posts, hopefully, and our stream game of the week, which Ryan and I have so much fun putting out every Wednesday. So please come, comment, share your thoughts. We love to hear them.
Yes, of course. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back," because you won't be back.
Get another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
Dear God, Ryan,